that go, the role play? Did you, any discoveries you want to share? You can make discoveries and not share them, that's fine too, but I want to have opportunity for comments.
Well, it is interesting, that you get this question every so often, and you would think that we all have, something.
It's true.
Every time it catches me,
Me
so
too!
I'm like, okay, that's good. It's a good place to start, the W's. I like that.
Yeah, and I love what you said, www, and if all that's, you could only remember that,
Right.
you could swing right into baha'i.us.org.
Exactly.
I mean, if you could remember that, right? Whatever works for you folks, but we need something.
I think that what I get hung up in is, as we know, the faith is so huge, and you feel you have to give them the whole shebang.
I know, don't we? We're like, let me give you the entire revelation about God in one breath. Ain't gonna happen, right? But actually, as I've thought about it, and the quotes, because I was just reviewing this morning, these lovely quotes here in book 2. What is the purpose of religion, right? The purpose of the one true God, exalted be his glory, in revealing himself unto men, is to lay bare those gems that lie hidden within the mind of their true and inmost selves. So we could go about it from that angle, the development of humankind, right? Or we can come at it from the top down, right? We could say God's purpose in sending his prophets unto men, all men have been created to carry forward an ever-advancing civilization. Right, so we can either look at it, we're here to elevate the people, or we're here to make a better civilization. It's the same thing from two different angles. One is the grassroots view, and the other is the, the ivory tower view. So, in a nutshell, to me, especially having written this book, it's about world peace. And because I found out that everybody wants world peace, I have a great bridge, going there, right? One of the things, that we, that I want to take a little minute and talk about is whenever we're talking about the Baha'i faith, here's the saying that I recite to myself: fake it till you make it, or fake it till you feel it. Anybody hear those? Right? So, because I have a background in acting, our family was doing acting, and so I was on Hawaii Five-0 and Lost and Battleship and Princess Kaiulani, and there was one other really famous one in there somewhere. In the acting world, it's all about faking it, right? An appearance of. And yet when you see the final thing, if it's done well, it looks real. And I thought about that reality. Johnny Depp, raise your hand if you love Johnny Depp. Okay, pirates! Johnny Depp said it's finding the truth in the lie, right? Because the play or the show or the whatever, that's a lie, it's all a fiction, right? But you have to make it real or believable enough, and so he calls it finding the truth within the lie. Kind of don't we have to do that ourselves too? On a personal basis, there's this distraction and there's that thing that never was a good idea, and there's this other thing that we should, and finding our path through all of those landmines and distractions and wrong turns and so on and so forth is kind of like finding the truth. And then when we're asked to talk about the Baha'i faith, which is this ultimate reality, we may not be in the mood. So what if we faked it? What if we just plastered that fake smile on our faces? And then if our spirit catches up to our body, then by the end of it, we're feeling genuine about it, right? Think about it. Abdu'l-Baha all the time said, "Are you happy?" Right? And that prayer, make a man joyful and happy being, right? So I go to Baha'i meetings, and a lot of times I'm like, where's the joy and happiness? It's like we're burned out, we're overwhelmed, we feel like failures, the joy and the happiness. And one of my bottom line rules is I never take on anything that I cannot do with joy and happiness. Because as I kept telling my husband through the years, sweetie, if you're on time but crabby, why don't you just be late and happy, right? where did the joy and the happiness go, right? And especially in small communities, we're at that teetering line where it's the same people doing everything, and they're burned out, you know, and it's not attractive. It's not. People will look at that and go, why would I want to be part of that? In fact, my first tour coordinator and I had this discussion. And she said, it's true. She said, my son did not want to join the Baha'i faith. In fact, he never did. He's like 26 now, married, his own kids. He didn't ever join the Baha'i faith because he knew he would instantly be elected to the spiritual assembly, and he knew what that meant. And he's like, forget it. I'll just be a Baha'i unofficially. And he's a Baha'i unofficially, right? And I'm like, whoa, we're missing the boat here, you know? And it goes back to being overwhelmed and taking on too much, right? And those of us that do show up and do read the Universal House of Justice, or do hear the Universal House of Justice's messages, which exhort us to, you know, strain every nerve, and, you know, there are divine deadlines to be met, and we're like, oh, redouble your efforts, and guess what? We shouldn't have, because now we're burned out. And then what happens? We drop out of the Baha'i faith.
And you've probably denied somebody else an opportunity to serve.
Maybe, you know, maybe I won't play that guessing game, but I'm just looking at each one of us controlling each one of us, right? Not like taking over the world and shoving other people out of our way. Because raise your hand if you've known a wonderful Baha'i that burned out and quit, okay? And we needed them, by golly. We needed them. So the joy and the unity, the happiness, it's vital, vital. And so, hence my rule, if I can't do something and maintain a happy and joyful countenance, I don't do it. That's my limit, that's my litmus test for what to take on, right? Fortunately, I'm having the time of my life on book tour, you know, bombing around the U.S., encountering, you know, what you could call difficulties and hardships, right? But if it weren't, you know, giving me spiritual bounties along the way, I'm telling you, I would stop. I would just stop. But you need to think about this joy and happiness factor, all right? Now, thinking about the joy and happiness in others and in our conversations, right? What we, you know, really could get a lot better at is thinking about the feeling of a conversation, right? So think about the last argument you had with somebody. No fair, you two looking at each other. Okay. You may not remember what it was exactly about, but you darn well remember the resentment, you know, the put upon, the whatever negative feelings you had. We are, first and foremost, emotional creatures. Okay? If we're lucky, we have developed our rational faculties and we are also thinking people. But the way our brains are structured, the emotions come first. Always. It's just, once you know that, you've got a major key to dealing with yourself and other people. The emotions are always running the show. So in a conversation with somebody, if I like, you know, kind of like, okay, your beliefs, my faith, ready, go, you know, and it's just kind of a tussle, right? This is what I think Shoghi Effendi was talking about when he said that art can better awaken such noble sentiments than cold rationalizing. And I would add, or warm rationalizing, right? Because where was the joy? Where's the joy in cold rationalizing? No, because the way our brains work, the intellect is often divorced from the emotions. But what are people dying for? What do our writings say people are literally dying for the lack of?
Love.
Love. What is our faith about? Love. Unity. You know, solving problems collaboratively. All of these are emotions, my friends, right? So you'd think we kind of get better at, you know, the emotional angle of things, but the problem with emotions is they're delicate. And so, you know, raise your hand if you've ever had your feelings hurt by another Baha'i, right? We all have, right? We all have, right? And so once you get your feelings hurt by another Baha'i, you pull back, you're the turtle in the shell, right? And then what you present is your cold exterior, right? I'm not going to lay extend my feelings out of my safe shell to be hurt again, right? And so then we go to, you know, we might go to Baha'i events and everybody's polite and everybody's faking it and you know it's not real. There is not the love and the unity. Well, how are we going to get over this? How are we going to get over this? Reference my previous statement, fake it till we feel it. We just got to keep on trying, but keep in mind our own limits, their limits. I read a quote I need to have handy. Somebody famous, like Henry David Thoreau or somebody said, be kind to people. They're all having a hard life, right? It's a guarantee we're all having these enormous tests and difficulties designed to steer us and cause us to grow, all right? It makes it hard. So if we can be kind and loving with ourselves, forgive ourselves, give ourselves permission to learn, give ourselves, pats on the back when we achieve some small step, and treat other people the same way, but it's our own internal environment that's going to make or break us. We need to be policing our happiness. My happiness and my joy, my growth is so great now that I don't care what other people do, right? But I wasn't always this way, my friends. I was not, right? So, when we have a conversation with somebody, we need to be paying attention to the joy factor, the happiness level, the positive emotions. So remember the last wonderful conversation you had with somebody. Do you remember exactly what was said? Every last word? Who made what point? But do you remember the feeling? Right? It's the feeling that really counts in these conversations that we need to be having with each other, inside ourselves, and with our seekers. So, I'm involved, I've been involved in conversations with people where I needed to make some very difficult points with them, okay? About their addictions or about, whatever. And I decided that I would take my guidance from the Baha'i writings. What a concept, right? And remember, I'm after brevity, I'm after concise. Frank but loving is the phrase that I chant to myself. Frank but loving. This is from where? Anybody know? Universal House of Justice. Frank but loving consultation, right? They call for this. And when I read this a while ago, I was like, oh, you mean so it doesn't have to be black or white? We always, in American society especially, we tend to think of this extreme or its opposite extreme. Okay, but the Baha'i faith is all about this middle ground of, consultation and give and take, and I don't want to say compromise, but wending your way through all the different twists and turns to find the truth. So, frank but loving. Okay, here's, brutally honest over here, and here's being a doormat over here. And in horse whispering, Pat Pirelli, who is the horse whispering instructor that I study his system, he says, never say never, don't always say always, usually say usually, right? It's this, he says, be an extreme moderate, right? So I'm looking for this middle ground. Frank, okay, that's this brutally honest, but toned down a little bit. Loving, yes, the loving, bring that in full force. So if I can't say something that's speaking my truth, but lovingly, even if I'm teasing, even if I'm poking him in the ribs, or I'm pulling his leg, but if I can't say it frank but loving, I don't say it. I wait. And because this friend, this very close friend, is, we're in ongoing conversation, there'll be another opportunity. It'll roll around again, guaranteed. I don't have to always shoehorn it in the first chance I get, because then I get what in horse whispering we call opposition reflex. It's just knee-jerk, whoa, you jumped down my throat, I'm gonna gag reflex, right? And then they just reject. But it's the tone that they're rejecting, it's not necessarily the idea. So if I have my internal environment squared away, and I can say my truth in a what way? Frank but loving. Frank but loving. That's their words, not mine. I would maybe say frank and loving, but their wording is frank but loving. I find that very interesting as a writer and a wordsmith. Frank but loving. Because another thing that we tend to do, and unfortunately this is in Baha'i communities, it's rampant in some Baha'i communities, it's this faint air of disapproval. Okay? Unfortunately, I run into it all the time. All right? And I'm going to use one of my past experiences as an example of this. I was in a Baha'i community giving this talk. The community shall be nameless to protect the guilty. And it was in the room, you know, the special room off of a restaurant. What do you call it? I don't know. Yeah, meeting room-ish. Yeah, except for it was for eating. The eating meeting room, right? And you know, there were a couple of, you know, close friends of the faith there, so I had to watch what I said, right? And the music was, you know, rather loud. I was having to kind of shout over the music. But I liked the music because ever since a year ago, I got my dancing legs. And I like to dance and sing now. Never used to. And I was kind of, you know, bopping along with the beat while they were doing their workshop, whatever. And there was a song that came on right as I was wrapping up. And I really liked it. And I said, wow, you know, to the cashier that was closing up, what's your soundtrack? What's the song? And he said, just a minute, I'll get it. And he gave me this paper. What does that say? Jason Mraz.
We sing, we have.
We sing, we dance, we steal things.
We sing, we dance, we steal things. She handed me this piece of paper, the cashier did. And I went, really? I thought I was familiar with that album, but this song I don't recognize. And as I was, you know, beginning to steer a conversation about the music onto Baha'i things, right, which I'll get to in a little bit later in my talk, the woman next to me, lovely lady, was going, we steal things. And I was like, you know, shh. Yeah, obviously we don't believe in stealing things. Most people in the world don't.
We steal ideas, we steal...
Right, but stealing in general is bad. We can all agree on that,
You know
right?
something?
Right.
I feel I need to say something because I've been feeling hurt.
Oh.
Everything I say, you say back.
Oh. Okay.
I
Really?
feel like you disagree with me on anything, everything, and like
Really?
you say you approve of me, but I don't feel approved of.
Oh, okay. Tell you what, after we're done, you and I will go and square away, because I love you dearly, Thelma. I do. And I will fix it.
Okay.
I will fix it. Right? So, this is what she did, was she disapproved of the stealing things. And I was like, you know, I'm trying to build a bridge and steer this, you know, about the music and we're just going to let that slide. So the faint air of disapproval that I've run into in Baha'i communities, right? We need to really look at that, think about it, and see it's just exactly what, you know, Abdu'l-Baha was talking about. Do my words build bridges? This is a rough paraphrase of that quote. Is what I'm saying building unity in the community, right? Because it's this feeling stuff we need to get a lot better at, right? Alrighty. Now, when we mention the word Baha'i to people, see if we can plaster that smile on our face so that our feelings catch up with our words. Does that make sense? Right? Now, I'm going to switch from, you know, my talks and my books to other kinds of popular conversations that might come up and show you how you can steer those, all right? So obviously anything related to books, if anybody brings up anything book related, you all could steer that onto Baha'i books. And if it's a light, ordinary conversation, use my book, because my book is a novel. It's not cold rationalizing or even warm rationalizing. It's a story.
And it does a good job of setting an example of steering a conversation, too.
How's that?
Well, the girl in the future does a good job of, and of also refraining from steering it in that direction. She mentions something, sees that it's not recognized, so she knows she's not a Baha'i. So she knows not to go too far.
Oh, good.
When they first meet.
Cool.
It was feast day, I think, and she wasn't familiar with something she said. And she does a good job of steering the conversation to Baha'i.
Wonderful. No one's ever said that before, but thank you for that. I tried hard to figure out, because my world of the future, I picked 700 years as the time when the Golden Age would have arrived. And the reason I arrived at that is because Baha'i scholar Ahang Rabbani gave a talk many years ago at Oklahoma Baha'i School, and it was like going to a science fiction convention. It was so cool. And he talked about, some of the things written that aren't translated yet, and that he and some of the other translators have put their own brains together and pulled together some of the different quotes to address some of these questions. Like, we know that the next manifestation will come no sooner than 1,000 years, but from when exactly? From 1863? So that would mean that, the next manifestation would come 2863, theoretically, question mark. But then the Golden Age comes before the next manifestation, according to what we have in the writings. So how far before? Do you see what I mean? An interesting question. Well, according to him and the other translators and the talk that he gave, he figured there would be no more than 200 or 300 years of Golden Age before the next manifestation came. So you figure out the dates, according to that system. And so from when I started writing the book, I pegged it at 700 years from 2007 when I started to write. So I have my character Abby time sliding into the year thank you, 2707. I forgot what was in my own book. 700 years, do you see, in the future, right? And so I had to really think hard, how are they going to be? How are they going to talk? How are they going to, and it's my best guess, but I appreciate your comment that you liked how she had that conversation, because I want her to be real and likable, She's going to be a human being too. We know that 700 years in the future, people are still going to be having tests and difficulties, but they should no longer be due to prejudice or lack of opportunity or, illness, or we should have all those kind of solved. So what kind of tests would people have? And how would they talk? Just in normal conversation. I don't know.
I like that they have generic programs.
Right? Do you like that? Solve that language problems. Good. So let's move on and talk about one of the hardest situations that we face as Baha'is to steer onto spiritual topics, and that is pop culture. Okay, TV, movies, because let's face it, so much of what's out there is what? You tell me, in your own words.
Horrible things.
Trash, right? Repugnant, morally bankrupt. I mean, whatever bad terms you want to give, a lot of what's out there is, probably true. But yet that's what a lot of people talk about. You go to the supermarket and, the magazines are like, what was this week's? Last week was Katie leaving Tom Cruise, right? And this week is Rob Patterson getting back together with Kristen, thingy. And don't do it, Rob, screams the headline, right? Well, The reason why I know what's on there is, guess what? This is what people are talking about sometimes, right? And the Baha'i writings say we should be conversant with the needs of the age in which we live. Well, to me, I'm very scientific about my spirituality, and so I see corollaries, all right? So a corollary to be ye, vitally concerned with the needs and exigencies of the age in which ye live, which I believe is the direct quote. The corollary would be, please know what people are talking about so you can steer them onto what they should be thinking and talking about, right? So if they're talking about Tom Cruise and well, I feel really lucky because I was an actress, and I enjoy knowing a little bit about the process of filmmaking and seeing who's doing what. And in fact, there are some really great films out there. There really are. There is also a lot of trash. There's no doubt about it. So what's a good Baha'i to do? Well, just take a minute and let's do a little bit of thinking. Has a non-Baha'i show, book, magazine, or other, pop culture, mass media product ever raised a Baha'i thought in you? Yes. Because we're Baha'is, we have an outlook on the world that should pop up even when we're reading something not Baha'i. Now and again, not all the time, right? The fact that that can happen and may have happened with you is usable, all right? Because what that means is we can just simply say to people when they mention something, we can give our honest Baha'i thought. So it's important to actually look around and see and think about what are people talking about, what is on the cover of People and Us and, Which Weekly, and oh sorry, that was a Harry Potter joke. And how, think about in advance, how can we steer that to a Baha'i topic, all right? So I'm going to give you an easy one. I'm going to take a little detour first. All right, the fact that I was an actress, okay, and I was on, here's my list, Hawaii Five-0, Lost, Princess Kaiulani, The Descendants. Did you all see that? It won huge at the awards, Oscars and whatnot. It was a fabulous movie. I was in that movie. Battleship. Another Baha'i that I found out in a talk in Reno was on Wizard of Oz. She was a short person and she was one of the Munchkins. Cool to know. Is this usable in conversation? Yeah, I'll show you how in a minute. So the fact that a Baha'i who's in those shows, here's how this works. Whenever somebody talks about a show, one of those shows, or a show like that, right? Remember the conversation we had? Were you there at the street, at the urban market? No, I went that afternoon and you were taking a nap. I got into a conversation with 3 of the vendors about Lost. I happened to mention I was on Lost, okay? And they were like, Lost, what episode was that? And they were all over it. They were big Losties, right? And I was like, yeah, I know how to work this. So all that you do is you just at some point say, I met a Baha'i. However it works. I met a woman who was on that show. She's a Baha'i. I met a Baha'i. It depends on the person you're talking to. Do they even know what a Baha'i is, right? Who was on that show, right? Or I met a woman who was an actress in Hawaii. Or I met an actress. Or whatever works to bridge, right? So then they would go, oh, who or what, or, at some point you give them a chance to ask. And then you would say, yeah, we met her because she was in town because she's a Baha'i and she was giving a talk to the Baha'is, right? Or whatever works, right, for you. And then, lo and behold, they might say, what's a Baha'i? And then you would say, it's a twist, right? Okay, what is the Baha'i faith? It's a wonderful worldwide religion working for world peace. What's a Baha'i?
A member of the Baha'i faith, which is?
Can do it that way. Whatever works for you. What's another way to possibly do that? What's a Baha'i?
A person who is working for
Right. right? Anything that works for you. We just need to be ready for these different questions, right? So, that's an easy, whenever you know of a Baha'i, who's the most famous Baha'i actor on TV right now? Do you all know?
Oh, what's his name on the Octopus?
It's a brand.
Rainn Wilson is his name, right? Rainn Wilson is his name. He's the one that recorded the appeal to what for the National recently? He recorded a video message to not the UN, not the Iranian High Council, something.
It's for the
Education.
education, education.
Yeah, that was it. The Learning on Fire initiative,
Something.
whatever that is, right? So.
For Iranian students, I suppose.
Yes, the students, who are being denied an education in Iran, right? So they got Rainn Wilson basically to record this, why? Because he's the most famous Baha'i actor right now, okay? Another Baha'i actress is Eva LaRue, okay? If anybody watches CSI New York, she's the actress on CSI New York. Usable information, eh? Right? So if you have any coworkers who like NCIS or CIS, right, raise your hand if you know anybody that likes those shows. I like NCIS, okay? But the most gruesome things I've ever seen on the flat screen were on one of those episodes. So I kind of like have my hand, close to the off or the mute or the whatever, because you never know when the script writers are going to throw something just repugnant at you. But so yeah, if you go to Rainn Wilson's page, he runs that Soul Pancake web page, and he has a New York Times bestseller graphic novel called Soul Pancake. So you can look into all that. Just be ready to steer those conversations about TV and movies, and graphic novels, which are very popular, onto, hey, I, perused one of those recently because it was written by a Baha'i. Normally I don't, whatever, but I was kind of, do you see how you don't even have to like the stuff? You don't have to even buy the stuff in order to have a bridge with somebody who does like it and steer it, right? So let me give you a little scenario, and then I'm going to have you all practice with this, movies, TV, not books, because we already know books. Books are too easy, right? Wow, I'm reading this great book. Oh, I heard about this great book too, right? So books is a slam dunk, right? So now we're going to do not books for your steering ordinary conversations. Let me give you a real situation. There was a person who needed to move a meeting that I was going to an earlier time, so that she could leave, so that she could go watch Glee with her friends. And I was like, really? And that's called appointment TV, just so you know, there's a name for it, okay? And I was like, Glee. And I'd heard a little bit about it, that it's like they have singing, and it's a little bit like it's a musical, right? I'd never seen it, I have no interest in seeing it, right? But I was like, there was a little thought tapping at the back of my brain, there's a usable concept somewhere in here. I just didn't know what it was, right? And so, having thought about it for quite a while, I realized that the bridge in there is precisely because I hadn't watched it, and precisely because I wasn't interested in it. So what I would say now, if I was able to have that conversation again, is I would say, frank but lovingly, I would say, Glee, I don't know anything about it. It has music, right? Well, so the Baha'is have a very high standard. What kind of music is it? And actually, that was 2 breaths I had to take, But that's kind of the shortest I could do it in everyday lingo. And then I would shut up, and then I would let her come at it from however she wanted to, right? She could say, oh, it's like pop tunes that the cast sings, and it's just really entertaining and well done. And I go, really? Well, what kind of, what's the sexuality level on that show? Because Baha'is have really, really high moral standards. If I hadn't already said something like that, right? See how I slid that in there? I'm like, I don't know if I'll like that. Tell me about it. We have high standards. Do you see how not seeing it is just as usable as having seen it? Right? Because if I said, oh, I've seen Glee, it was interesting, refer to my Baha'i thought when I was watching it. It was interesting to me to note that the Baha'i, or the actors are all very squeaky clean in there. Now, because see, since I heard her say that, I happened to have seen it. I didn't like go sit down and watch it, but I saw some clips or whatever. And I was like, huh, they're like squeaky clean them on that show. That's good, I like that. Just as simple a thought as that can be a bridge builder. I don't have to like have the entire thing analyzed and, have every last thought out. I can just have a gut reaction, wow, they're clean, that's nice, right? Or, gee, they sing well. Because if I have a positive thought to share, right, that's building bridges, it's that joy and unity thing as well. I don't always have to have, that faint air of disapproval of, wow, they sing raunchy songs. That's not what I have to be saying. Whoever I'm talking to probably knows the songs are raunchy, but there's that thing back to the we steal things. We can just kind of let it slide. We don't always have to throw the red flag on everything that we don't approve of. We can just kind of like, never mind that, and then focus on the positive, because again, people want to be around positive, uplifting, and so on. They don't want to be around the naysayers and the negatives. All right, so now, one of the things that I could do is I could say later in the conversation about anything that has music, Baha'is believe that music is a ladder for the soul. Is that a Baha'i quote? Are we supposed to use Baha'i quotes in our teaching work? Yes. Shorter is better, I believe, right? So if I wanted to, memorize that, music is a ladder for the soul, I could put that on a sticky note, put that up there, because music is an art form. And what does the Guardian say about art? Art can better awaken what? Such noble sentiments than cold what? Rationalizing, especially among the mass of the people. Is it important that we have something to say about the art and the music and the dancing that's happening around us? Yes. Are people interested in it? Yes. Because it's an art form. See how this works? Oh, how have we been missing the boat on all these years, right? So, when I say something about dance or something about art, something about music, when I'm talking with somebody about the pop culture forms of those, I want to say it, as uplifting as I can, as frankly as I can, in a bridge building way, right? Having a positive emotion happening during there. If I can use a Baha'i quote, great. But you know what, friends, let's make an agreement right here, right now. Let's not wait to have every quote perfectly memorized before we open up our mouths. It's never going to happen. It's okay if we botch it. It's okay if we summarize it. It's okay if we say, my faith believes that music, done in the right way is really good. Would that be close enough? Yeah, right? So if we can memorize a quote and it rolls trippingly off the tongue, wonderful. If not, summarize it. Just know the guts of what it is and keep the love going. What's the most important thing? Love, unity. That's what we're really all about. Who cares if we get to heaven and we had every quote we ever said perfectly memorized, especially if it was done in a cold, detached, heartless way. That's not what we're about, right? All right. So, one of the things I would like to do now is have you all take your groups. If you want to mix your groups, do you all want to mix your groups this time? You're happy with your groups? Yes? Okay, we'll just say.
Depends on what this assignment is.
Yeah.
Right, it's another, practice session.
I want a new car.
So we'll keep the 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, all right? So we're gonna do a little pop culture rehearsal, all right? And I'm gonna give you this week's, newsstand headlines. And the ones are gonna start out again. You're gonna be saying a pop culture, something. And then the 2s are gonna be yourself, you're a Baha'i, and you're gonna see if you can maybe together work out a positive, short response that might be able to steer the conversation onto a Baha'i spiritual, hopefully Baha'i topic, right? So the headlines this week were Kim Kardashian finally fits back into a bikini. Jennifer Aniston, thank you, and what's his face got married.
Oh, did they get married?
Yeah, that's what it says, right?
Where are we at?
I can't judge.
I don't even know, because it didn't say on the front of the cover, right? And I'm like, but so Jennifer Aniston, and her beau got married, right? And she's all beaming and beautiful. She's a very beautiful person, is she not? What else? Oh yeah, so the Robert Pattinson and Kristen, from the Twilight series, last week, she had cheated on him and he ditched her, and then this week, he's taken her back again. Okay, so those are the headlines on the, supermarket tabloids. Or set you guys ones, use something you've actually heard lately and you didn't know how to reply to. Or take something from a TV show that might vaguely interest you or something, okay? But remember, you ones, you're the non-Baha'i friends to start out with. This is real life. We don't want to make it too easy for the Baha'is because, we need to be thinking about how to bridge the gap, right? And then after about 3 or 4 minutes, then we'll switch. Questions?
Politics being involved in pop culture.
Good question. High five for that question. That'll be next.
Okay, that's.
Politics is my 3rd section. Yes. All right, so let's try for 3 minutes. Go ahead.
We went to your
I like the Kim Kardashian. It's the most frivolous.
You would.
I don't even know how to say it.
I know nothing about this.
Kardashian.
So you can do something else.
In the magazines.
Pop culture.
I didn't know she gained a lot of weight here, but she's lost it. I gave you the hardest one.
It's like, who the hell cares?
Try that. Well,
Sure. Sure.
all right, on the
Yeah.
Kardashians. It's always something.
We know
Don't you find
Nothing
that
about
right?
offensive?
Pop culture.
In what way?
I think
Pop culture. Try sports.
Well, in my faith,
I haven't. I
materialistic
I'm
ideas,
ashamed of
being a
myself a little
materialistic
bit because
person
I should be
isn't
watching
quite
those.
what doesn't bring him happiness, and I don't think Kim Kardashian is happy.
Yeah, that's,
Well, she's a materialistic girl.
You mean like being too concerned about that sort of things?
Well, the body, how much her bikini costs, how much her tan costs, how much her sandals cost, how much her little puppy costs.
Well, isn't that
It's
sort
all
of what
materialistic.
America's all about, is that the
Yeah.
American dream?
that's wonderful.
I would imagine it is, but
I'm
in
a
my
little
faith,
embarrassed at
there's
myself
things
for
that
not
are more
having
important
watched it.
than material,
I think it really
material.
encourages excellence
Oh, boy.
and they're really,
You would.
I mean, that's the epitome.
I think you're doing, by the way, I think you're doing really good. I think
Coming to terms with where
The high faith, it's a
finding some
worldwide
spirituality
religion,
other than money.
teaches
That's interesting, so why don't we talk more about that kind of stuff? Why is it all about Kim Kardashian?
Back to sports.
Because it's easier than trying to figure out.
Like the,
So what's your favorite
so
music?
you don't know
Behind me.
LeBron James
So
or
does
Kobe
it have
Bryant.
some ideas?
No.
about-
Okay.
No, I'm not,
World
I'm
peace,
not much of a
achieving world
sports
peace?
fan, I'm afraid, I just.
Got me?
never have gotten into it. Right.
She did it. She took the Kim Kardashian thing and turned it around.
Did you? How'd you do that? I couldn't touch that one.
Are y'all,
So,
you know what? Please, I'm dying to hear it too, because I didn't hear it. So hold on to what
Okay.
happened,
Oh,
and we're gonna switch, right?
Remember?
Or should we share first before we switch? Because I don't want you to
Well,
lose
it's
it.
what was it? Yeah, we
There's-
could share it.
Okay, good. So,
Well,
that was just 3 minutes, right? It seems like forever when you're, but it's not that long, especially when you're scrambling, what do I say? Okay, since you had something great with the Kim Kardashian comeback, how did you reply, or who?
Wait, she said, what was your initial thing was kind of, why would you be interested in that kind of thing? You know?
Like, who cares?
Well, it wasn't the best start, but it went to, it seems like she's hung up in the material aspects of life, which led me to, well, I was just gonna be very American.
Absolutely.
Well, what else is there? You know,
Right.
sort of thing. Which then she led into things like achieving world peace, so, went down that line.
Beautiful.
And it kept me hooked, really. It was like new thoughts coming in that all of a sudden it was elevated to a whole different form of conversation. So I thought I was be able to outfox you, but no.
Well, she is. She's all about gimme, gimme, gimme.
Yeah.
How she
But-
looks and the money,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right, right,
All of them are. I can't stand that show. I wish they'd take it off the air.
right. Fortunately, there's an off button on all TVs,
Yeah.
so.
I don't watch it, so.
I look at it this way, she gives you a perfect opportunity to contrast.
Yeah.
That's important.
So, anyway.
What did you just say?
I said these folks that are kind of drowning in this other stuff give you a perfect opportunity to contrast.
Please hold on to that thought.
But if
Go back to that.
they, people would quit watching her and start thinking about themselves and where they're going and what their world is, they would be much happier.
Maybe. I mean, I've learned not to speak for other people and what,
Oh, true.
what they need, right? Because maybe for some people, looking at her is better than not looking at her and think, maybe it elevates them from where they were. It can always be worse. People can always be worse off, no matter how bad they are, it can always get worse.
Yeah.
So,
Political.
whatever, if their own miseries just, are overwhelming to them, and watching TV and looking at beautiful bodies, elevates them out of their misery, and who am I to say? I do not, go there. But let me ask you, was it fun? First of all, was it fun, this
Yes.
exercise? Is it fun?
Yes.
Finally, we're having fun at a Baha'i meeting, okay? We need more of these. And then, did you have anything to share in your conversation?
What was the?
We did sports because that's.
Oh, they did sports
that's
too.
what he knows. We
Good.
did the Yankees, Red Sox, and then we did this Johnson. So, yeah, we turned to thinking about other things, about the good parts of the sport.
So, can you replay for us? Give us an instant replay. How did the conversation go? Can you guys do it again for us?
Well, we talked about, I can't remember what's Johnson's first name that got,
Chad.
Chad Johnson, that got kicked off of the team this week because of the domestic violence incident, and we were just turning around hoping that he can better his life and better things.
Beautiful. This is beautiful because, of course, domestic violence is bad, but, this hatred, right, that would happen there. And so that's why, the purpose of my talk is to think about steering ordinary conversations onto spiritual, hopefully Baha'i topics. That is my full title of this talk, right? Because acknowledging in an everyday language, domestic violence is bad. Is that a spiritual topic? Yes. Okay, is it Baha'i? Not quite, but it could be, right? And so with a little thought, we may figure out how to go the rest of the way. Either the next time we see that person or with another person. We are all evolving. And so very often what happens over here, we carry on over here in hopefully a better way or a more evolved way. Right? And so you shared with yours, and would you mind sharing, or would you like to share?
I was really surprised because I thought I was trying to go far away from the spiritual things, sports. But Thelma did a very good job because I was talking about the dream team, the Olympics. It's really a dream team, excellent. And she mentioned right away because I have a faith topic. I'm not a fan of basketball, she said. We want to excel in all things. Oh, wow, the faith. I said, what is the faith? And then, of course,
Great.
Thelma just.
All right, everybody, round of applause. For everybody. No, you guys. Round of applause, right? For everyone. Fantastic. That's fantastic. So, you see, I love what you said about if it's something that you really hate, you can just say, you know what, that bothers me because I'm a Baha'i and we believe in the opposite of that. So no matter what somebody says, if it's either they're talking about something terrible or something we believe in or just something they like, and we can see if we can eventually steer it in a loving, supportive way, any of those will work. And I can't think of any other kind of conversation. Okay, something we vigorously disagree with, really disagree with, or something that's, you know, in the middle, mushy, that's maybe steerable eventually. What other kind of conversation is there? No kind that I can think of. If you think of one, email me, all right? The only kind of conversation we can't work with is no conversation at all. You can't steer a car that's sitting still very well. So if there's any kind of conversation and the feeling is good, we can work with that. But it needs thought. This is a skill. We need to think ahead, and we need to have this a little bit practiced. So one of the thoughts I put out for your consideration is think about how you can practice with each other. All right, having taken this workshop now, I'm not done yet. We got another section to go. But think already about how you can get together, formally, informally, phone, whatever, and practice this skill and play, you know, play the seeker, play the ordinary conversation for each other. Were you going to say something, Jim?
Just that I think, for myself, I try to keep in mind, my understanding is that we're not to elevate the conversations to sell the faith, we're to elevate the conversations to elevate us and the person we're talking to.
Of course, build that unity.
Exactly.
And the faith comes in
Right.
at some point,
You,
and it's the ideas, and we go, you know, this really cool idea from this faith that I, whatever you want to say, know about, belong to, you know, read all the time, study, follow, whatever wording is comfortable for you, right? Because we're just offering. We're offering, offering, offering. They do whatever they wish. And the more we push, the more we drive them away. That's how that dynamic works. So we offer lovingly, right? And then we just see what kind of avenues, you know, might work out. That's our job in this process. All right. Here are some bridges, because a lot of times what it boils down to is like that glee conversation that I had. It feels like an opportunity, but I don't know what that bridge would be. I don't know how to steer this, right? So here I'm offering you some bridges. As a Baha'i, I struggle with images of nearly naked women. As a Baha'i, I struggle with hateful lyrics in songs. As a Baha'i, you see what I mean? That would be the, I can't stand that stuff. What?
I struggle with.
Yeah, or whatever wording is comfortable for you. But that's how to lovingly, frank but lovingly say, without going, right? We can just say, I struggle with, or I have a problem, whatever works for you. Does that make sense? All right. Then conversely, if somebody has a nugget of something in what they're saying, for example, the Olympics. Now, usually there's nothing bad inherently about the Olympics, right? But then specifically basketball, good for you, that you pulled that nugget out of there and you said, and my mind was going on what did Thelma say, right? Weren't we all, how did she make it work, right? And so what you pulled out was excellence in all things. Yes, score, beautiful,
Yeah, I
right?
was ashamed of myself for not watching it. I mean, I just never watched the Olympics.
Me neither, I totally missed them this year, I was on the road.
They were good.
There's many elevating aspects.
There are, and so one of, like let's say basketball, I'd be in Thelma's, court, so to speak. I'd be saying, I don't really know much about basketball, but I really believe in working as a team, because my first thought is they're working as a group. We're trying to do that in our communities too. So any tie-in that seems natural to us, that comes to our head, right? This is why, friends, our daily meditations and prayers are so important. Because I've met people that never think about what they do. They never stop and reflect what they believe in, right? And then you have a conversation with them, and it's all over the map. They don't even know what they believe in. And if it's convenient to believe this day, then they believe in that day. And the other day, you go, but wait, I thought that this would mean that, I didn't really mean that. And it's like trying to nail jello to a tree. What do they stand for? Who are they? They don't know. And they're lost. I've met lost souls because they don't know what they believe in, because they don't pray, they don't know their purpose, they don't reflect, right? So this is why Baha'u'llah made it a law that we should pray every day. And the short obligatory prayer, right? It's not congregational prayer, I don't think, to say it because we're just rehearsing. So say the short obligatory prayer with me. I bear witness, O my God, that thou hast created me to know thee and to worship thee. I testify at this moment to my powerlessness and to thy might, to my poverty and to thy wealth. There is none other God but thee, the help in peril, the self-subsisting. So that's a statement of purpose. That's a mission statement, my friends, right? And it has layers and layers of meanings, and in my spiritual system it has corollaries, because if I'm in peril and I say that prayer and he's the help in peril, I've just called on my source of help. If it's the only thing I can think of, if all I can think of is that phrase, help in peril, okay, need some down here, because when we are in these situations and we need help, either we're trying to have a conversation with somebody or we're in a difficult situation ourselves, right? It's on this side of fees program. The most acceptable prayer is the one offered with the utmost spirituality and radiance. Its prolongation hath not been and is not beloved by God. The more detached and the purer the prayer, the more acceptable it is in the presence of God. That's from the Bob. So, is help, is that a legitimate Baha'i prayer? Yes. Okay? Right? Because it's short, it's heartfelt, and that's, according to the Bob, that's what really counts. Longer does not count, right? So, when we run across people who are lost and they don't know, and we are loving to them, and we gently, through our conversations, can introduce little ideas here and there, just a perspective, right? Then eventually it may attract the souls who are willing to be attracted. So we can say, as a Baha'i, I'm interested in people who work in groups. As a Baha'i, I'm interested in people who are pursuing excellence in their trade. Fabulous. Can I steal that? That's fabulous. I have to write that down right now. Excellence in all things, right? And then the opposite, if somebody's saying something we really vehemently disagree with, what are some of the things that we could say?
Struggling with an idea.
I have a hard time with, I struggle with people who hit each other. You know, it bothers me when whatever wording works, and so we need to practice our wording. We need to practice our wording, friends. Excellence in all things. Yeah. Right? God, that's so perfect. So Kim Kardashian, right? Does she have an excellent body? Yes. Did she work at it? Yes. Is that praiseworthy? Yeah. Ish. Sort of. You know? Would I use it in a teaching opportunity? Absolutely. If I thought it would get me to where I needed to go, right? Is being healthy a high goal? Yeah, right? Did she practice good health to get her figure back? Yeah, she looks healthy. She don't look like she starved herself. It looks like she exercised, ate right, you know.
Liposuction.
Did she? Did she?